Welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Reshaping Business with Integrity, the podcast where we explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Bogarts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. All right, so let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about networking and partnerships and collaboration and all doing that authentically in your business. And today, my guest is Michael Whitehouse, and Michael is a business and networking coach. He is the guy who knows a guy. From not knowing what Zoom was in 2020 to meeting thousands of entrepreneurs over the next 5 years, Michael leverages his experience and network to help clients and partners achieve things they never thought possible. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited that we're doing this. So yeah, tell us about how you got into this field of work and just why you're so passionate about it.
Well, I got into networking in the first place because I didn't have anything else. I moved to Groton, Connecticut in 2014. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. I didn't have anything to sell. I didn't have a job. But I did have my extroverted nature and curiosity. And a friend of mine said, you should go check out the Eastern Connecticut Chamber of Commerce Business After Hours. So there was an event the day before we moved into our apartment. I went there and just started talking to people and asking them what they were looking for. And I realized that they needed to meet other people in the room that I'd met that they hadn't met yet. And I started connecting them. And that led to more and more connections. And within 6 months, I was meeting the mayors and the CEOs and the directors and all the big wigs around town because it's not a really big place. And I had the benefit of not knowing anyone. So when you know a few people, you say, I know people. When you know absolutely no one, you know no one. And so that got me going. And after about a couple of years, I realized that I was doing something other people weren't doing. I was talking to people who'd grown up here and lived here for 50 years and didn't know people I knew. And I said, people might want to learn this. And that's how I wrote my first book, The Guy Who Knows a Guy. So fast forward to 2020, I was publishing a community magazine and I was getting most of my sales from in-person networking. I'd go to events, I'd connect with people, find that they had a need, and that would lead to business. Well, without in-person events, there's no prospecting through in-person events. And I started discovering the online space because I was trying to figure out how can I keep doing my business without being able to see people in person. And I came across the coaching industry and the online marketing space and started learning about it. Had a little burst of success that was short-lived, but lived just long enough to make me quit the magazine. And when it faded out, I said, I'm not going back. So this is where I'm meant to be. I'm going to find my place in this coaching world, help some people, teach some people, do some good things. And I haven't looked back in 5 years.
That's awesome. And I think that networking is such a skill, and it's so great that you teach people about that because it, well, especially me as like an awkward introvert, it's good to get some skills or information from people about because like you were just saying, going into a room where you don't know anybody, to me, that's like anxiety provoking. So it's good to have, some skills around that for sure.
Well, and that's what I've been able to do because it's not like I, learned the secrets of networking. I simply, by being an extrovert, there was no cost to trying. So going and meeting people was just fun for me. And then over time, I discovered, this works better. This doesn't work so well. And from that, I could now teach an introvert, don't do this, this, and this. Those don't work. Do this and this. Skip these steps. I can teach someone how to network without going to networking events. It's not necessary to do. Most of the things we associate with networking aren't actually necessary to do. They're just the most visible things. And so I've been able to, simply by brute force and trial and error, find what works, what doesn't work, what's fun but not profitable. And now I can pass that along.
Nice. Yes. And we're going to dive into some of those tips later on. How do you think that we can kind of reshape business to be more in integrity? I guess you kind of say that about being aligned with your purpose. For sure.
Yeah. Well, and so, in a bigger picture, if we're talking about large organizations, one of the issues, at least here in the US, is that the laws are structured to push businesses towards short-term thinking. This isn't just because of what people learned in business school. It's actually the laws changed in the 80s, to create this legal obligation to create shareholder value. And shareholder value means the stocks go up now. So doing something that is good, like good for the environment, which could improve brand equity, or taking better care of their employees and not firing them when there's a tiny downturn, or any of those things, run the risk of the management being sued by the shareholders because of a twisted and perverse legal incentive system.
Hmm.
And so, at the grand scale, that needs to be reformed. Now, I'm not holding my breath for positive progressive legal reform anytime in the near future. So the upside is technology is now democratizing resources that can make a difference. Now, there's certain things that we're not going to be able to impact. The big corporations are going to keep doing their thing, but there's a lot of things that we can do with the power of the internet, with the power of artificial intelligence, with the power of all these different things. When I first opened my first business, which was a game store back in 2002, I didn't know anything about bookkeeping or most stuff it takes to run a business, but I bought a copy of QuickBooks. So all I needed to know was how to put the things in the computer, and then the computer would do the stuff for me. And I realized if I didn't have this, I'd need to hire a bookkeeper, and we couldn't afford a bookkeeper. We didn't have that kind of revenue. And there were other things that we couldn't have done 10, 20 years ago. We wouldn't have been able to do them. Wouldn't have without technology to do it for us. And that was 23 years ago. So we have the ability to run a business in integrity because we don't need to scale to millions. You need to have enough to make a living, which for most people is $50,000 to $200,000, which is $1,000 to $4,000 a week. So most of us only need dozens or maybe hundreds of clients, not millions or hundreds of millions of clients, which means we can authentically deliver what we authentically deliver, what we're meant to do. And if 99% of the market looks at us and says, that 1% is more than enough. 1% of, I think 1% of Canadians is 400,000 people, and 1% of Americans is 3 million people. So I think most people listening would probably say an audience of 400,000 is sufficient to their needs to
Right.
develop their business.
Yeah.
And if you could only get 1% of the addressable market, that would be 4,000. So I
Wow.
think most of us, if we had 4,000 clients, would be in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need to appeal to everyone. We don't need to fit in, and we don't need to accommodate to like, well, this might offend someone. Now, I'm not saying we should go out and be offensive on purpose, but
Exactly. So
so
find your people, basically.
yeah,
So since networking and partnerships is really what you're an expert in, you're the guy who knows a guy. Yeah, let's give us some tips on networking and really creating those sort of authentic relationships.
sure. And I will address them specifically to those who might not find socializing to be a purely positive experience.
That would
So
be great.
So for me, it's a matter of like going to those events and try to make sure to pay attention to the fact you're there for business. Whereas when you go to an event, you're probably very sure you're there for business. Because if you weren't, you'd go home.
Yes.
So the first thing is to know what your goal is. Why are you there? And
Mm,
a lot of people go to networking events because they're supposed to, like their homework. But the thing is, in real life, you don't get credit for trying. You only get credit for results. So this isn't like school where your professor says, go to a networking event, and you come back and you're like, I went to a networking event, boss, or coach or teacher. That's what it is. And then they check you off on the list. So why are you there? Are you trying to find clients? Are you trying to find referral partners? Are you trying to find vendors? Are you trying to find mentors? Are you trying to learn about the market? What is your goal in being there? And then from that goal, who do you need to meet to get that goal achieved? Because if
mm,
your goal is to get a good sense of the market, and maybe you're new to town and want to find out who's who, what's going on, if you're clear on that, well, you probably want to talk to the president of the chamber, maybe the mayor, maybe, certain key influential people. So you'd go into the event saying that I'm new to town. I'm trying to find out. I want to find the people who really know what's going on. Oh, you want to meet Susie? She's the president of the chamber. Hey, great, Susie. Can we book can I come by your office and meet? Awesome. Well, great to meet you. Good to meet you all, guys. Have a good night. Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
If you're clear in the goal, you know when you've achieved it, and you can leave when you're done. If you want to. I mean, I close the events, but if you're there because you want more clients, there's always more clients you can get. So you don't necessarily want to meet one person and be like, I'm done, peace out. But when you're clear on that, you know what you're doing. Now, another thing that I teach people is a lot of the stress from the networking environment is the feeling like you are supposed to be pitching yourself.
Mm.
How do I introduce myself? How do I make people want to know? There is, and so I'm going to tell you this about pitching, about your introduction statement, whatever it is. There is no statement you can introduce yourself that will make someone really interested in working with you.
Hmm.
There isn't one. The best you can get is a conversation.
Right.
So the opening line in networking is functionally identical to a pickup line. It does the same thing. You are engaging in a social interaction to try to cause some sort of connection to happen. There is almost no pickup line that's going to make someone go home with you. The best pickup line will lead you into a conversation with instant rapport. Same thing with networking. The best you can get is rapport. You're never going to say something to someone where they're going to say, wow, really? Here's my credit card. Now, that this does not say that could never happen. There's nothing you can say to make it happen. Elisa, you could be talking to someone at an event and they say, what do you do? And you say, I project manage launches. And they say, holy crap, somebody does that? How much do you charge? Yeah, so sign me up. Let's go. Because they have an immediate need. But it's not because you said something brilliant that drew them in. It's because they are so excited that you solved the problem they have right now. They want to hire you for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting having those conversations sometimes. Like sometimes I'll go into a conversation and I think it's going to be about a joint venture conversation on Zoom. And then then they end up being a client. And they're like, oh, actually, I need what you have. And I was like, oh, and then all of a sudden this is a sales call. And then, okay, like that was entirely unexpected.
Yeah, but there's really nothing you can do to force that. And in fact, if you were going in guns blazing, you might turn them off.
Right.
And what would have turned into a sales call then doesn't. Because it allows the space. So once you realize it can't be done, there's no pressure to do it. So what you want to do in a networking conversation is make them talk about them. Because most people love talking about themselves if they have permission to do so and a structure to do it in. So if you just say, hey, tell me about yourself, most people are going to go, but if you say, what brings you here to this event? What are you looking for? Oh, I'm looking for this kind of client. Oh, so, what do you do? I do this. Oh, how'd you get into that? What do you like best about it? Who are the people you can most help? Do you have any really good success stories? And you kind of get someone, basically interview them. And because people love to talk about themselves. That's why I go on so many podcasts. Because I like to put myself in that place where people ask me questions. I get to say smart things. But in networking, that doesn't usually happen. So if you give them that chance, you interview them, you draw that information out, then they're going to like you. You're going to build rapport, and they may reveal that they have a need which you can solve. And if they don't reveal that, then, they're going to reveal a need you can solve. They may reveal a need that they'll pay you for. Usually you're going to solve that need with advice or an introduction. And then they're going to leave thinking you're the best person ever because everyone else tried to pitch them and you tried to help them. And some people in the course of that conversation are going to reveal a need that you actually have a solution for. And then you can pivot that into a conversation where you can be discussing what your offers might be. So, but the key thing is not to worry about how to say the right thing. The best thing you can do is ask a lot of questions that will draw them out and give them the platform to speak on.
I love that because there's so many networking events that I go to where they sort of give you this criteria, or some people even coach on that, right? Like, this is the exact way you got to introduce yourself and this and that. You need to this, you need to that. And so then, like, to me, it can be sort of anxiety provoking sometimes because I feel like I have to memorize something and it has to be perfect. And if I get one word wrong, it's going to be complete, it's going to be a disaster and this and that. And it's like, or I could
Yeah,
just talk
none
to
of those things
people.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so now that's an event where you can talk to people. There are events where, virtual events especially, where everyone gets 30 seconds and you go around the room. That's a different dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And but even there, your goal is to get people to say, I am interested to know more about you. No one's going to hear your 30 seconds and be like, my credit card's right here, let's go. So you need to give them something in 30 seconds that makes them want to know more, that makes them curious.
Right.
And that's why I teach the 8-second intro, which
Mm-hmm.
first off is simple because everyone can remember it. It's, how what I do is. You know how many people get nervous with networking? What I do is teach them to network in a stress-free, fun, and profitable way. And you really can't screw it up because it's only 7 words. And the less you say, the better. So it's just you're kind of putting out that something people are curious about and off. When I listen to a lot of these formulas that they use, I help X to Y because Z, bottom line, ABC, my brain is swimming. I've heard a few people, because you have to use the right voice inflection, because voice inflection is like punctuation in speech. And most people are so nervous about it, they're just like, I help entrepreneurs, women, coaches, and speakers to make more money because they're tired of inconsistent paychecks and they want to make more because they're working too much. And so bottom line, I help them make more money. I have no idea what that person does.
Right.
I know what their value promise is, but I don't believe them
Mm.
because 8 out of 10 people I run into at these events are newbies who have never delivered on anything.
Right.
So they've been told to say, I help you make more money, but they've never helped anyone make more money.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so most of those introduction formats just don't work because people aren't parsing them. They're not understanding them. And if they are, they're not believing them.
Yeah. That makes it tough.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you want to focus on the problem you solve. And that's the thing too. If you focus on the problem instead of the solution, people believe the problem. If I
Mm.
say, how many entrepreneurs aren't making enough money, what I do is teach them to run their business in a more aligned and successful way. You start with, yeah, I believe they're not making enough money.
Mm-hmm.
And because you agree to the problem, here's one of the psychological tricks. Because you stated a problem that they believe exists, they assume you know the answer.
Oh.
Because why would you open with people don't make enough
Yeah.
money if you
You're
couldn't
like, yeah,
solve
me
it?
too. Yeah, it
Yep.
sucks.
Yep. Yeah. And so people will assume that even though you didn't say it. Whereas if I say, I help you grow a 6-figure business, you'd be like, I bet you don't.
Yeah. Do you? Don't you? I'm not quite sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you even have a 6-figure business?
Right. Yeah.
I help you grow a 6-figure business. And I help myself do it by getting your money first.
Yes.
So yeah, so no one believes those claims. So state a problem which people will agree with, and then state something which you actually do. There's another thing. There was someone posted in the coaching jungle recently about like what's the responsibility between a coach and a client for getting the work done. And there's all these different opinions, but mine was, well, what did you promise? Because if you promise, um, if your promise is I'm going to teach you how to build a 6-figure launch, then the responsibility is on the client because all you promised was to teach it.
Mm.
If you say, I promise you're going to make 6 figures in your next launch, you better find some way to make that true.
Yeah.
And so if your promise is, I will make you 6 figures in your next launch, and they're not doing the work, you didn't promise I will make you 6 figures if you do the work.
Right.
You
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
promise I will, there's no caveats on those promises. I never see someone on stage being like, if you do this, this, and this, you'll make it. So some do. The honest ones do. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's something I always preface that about being like, I'm not a business coach. I'm not going to teach you sales. I'm not going to teach you how to put together your presentation and story
mhm.
arcs and all that kind of stuff. But I will tell you that you need to go out and, make sales calls. I will tell you that you need to,
Yep.
put together a presentation for your event. I will tell you, I'll give you all the tasks and tell you all the things you need to do, but you got to go do it. And if you need someone to teach you how, then you got to also integrate that person, and I'm like, I can't. And some people ask me like, oh, well, do you write the copy for my emails and my landing page? And I was like, no, I don't write that copy because you're the one who needs to provide information for your program. You know your audience best, you know your program best. So I'm not going to do that, but you need to write it and then I can build the landing page for you. Sure. And we can, make it pretty.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm like, you need to sell your program. I don't take responsibility for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
this would be like an auto mechanic promising you'll get to work on time. Like
Yeah.
they can promise that they'll make your car function,
Right.
but they
Yeah.
can't promise you're going to leave the house on time. They can't promise that there won't be traffic. They can't promise you won't get lost. But so many coaches are like auto mechanics who are promising that they'll get you to work on time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good
And
point.
so many coaches are teaching that. This isn't just random people out there who are like, I'm going to not tell the truth. There's marketing coaches out there who say focus on your deliverable, focus on the results you give, which is kind of true, but you have to make clear that with what I do, for example, with project managing launches and whatnot, if you have the right copy, if you have an email list, if you have an offer that can convert, if you have the things that go around it, I can make sure nothing falls in the middle, which is where a lot of launches collapses because they're missing pieces, and it will
Mm-hmm.
succeed.
Right.
But you're not going to create a six-figure launch. You're going to operate a six-figure launch.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Yes. That's a difference for sure.
Yep. Yeah, and the same thing, when I talk about like one of the free courses I have is 5 steps to six-figure networking. And if you are you know, a broke bum with no skills and no offers and you follow my strategy, you'll still be broke. You'll just be better known. Um, but if you have the concept is if you have an offer, you have clarity, and then you have the things that you need in a business, and then you follow those 5 steps, you'll make six figures more because it will create prospects, it will create sales opportunities, it will create collaboration opportunities. But you need the rest of the tools to make that happen.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that we were talking earlier about like I'd love to give an action. And you mentioned one about I love this sentence that you gave me was to approach every situation to make life better for the person that you're meeting.
Yes.
Talk about
Yeah.
that.
And I
I
actually
love
started teaching that in networking and then realized it applies everywhere else. Um,
that.
so, I talk about ask them questions so they'll tell you about themselves. You can find some way you can help them.
Hmm.
If they expand that to everything else, every client interaction, every networking call, every party you go to, the effect that has, first off, people notice it. Now, it's
Yeah.
not a quid pro quo thing. It's not like I helped you, now you're going to help me. It's I put good into the universe and good comes back to me. Often not from the
Hmm.
place I put it. Because we tend to, you pour water downhill. If I'm in a better position than you in a particular area, I can help you. You often can't reciprocate if I can help you, but then
Yeah.
someone else can help me.
Yeah.
So by focusing on helping people, a couple things happen. One, you're a better human being and your soul is cleaner and thus you feel better. So there's that. But then people start to notice that and people start to talk about you behind your back, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
So when you just start helping people, trying to find ways to make their lives better, you'll start to run into people who will say, yeah, and this always shocks me whenever it happens. I'll meet with someone who I've wanted to meet for a while. They'll get on the call and say, a number of people have told me I should meet you. And I'm like, me? Me? Michael Whitehouse? Are you sure? Sure it wasn't Michael Whitmore? Michael Whitehouse, really? because I've helped, and I don't. So one should keep track, but not keep score. I don't really
Mm.
keep track, actually, but I definitely don't keep score. But I'll often help someone because they'll need some connection. I'll make that connection, whatever, no big deal, and then I go off my way. And it happens sometimes that I will have this actually really happened that I ran into someone who I vaguely remembered them, like I knew we'd met before, almost remembered their name, but not quite. And they said, Michael, I'm so glad we met because I've got to thank you so much. I've still got the job. I actually got promoted, and it was all because of your introduction to Bob. And I'm thinking, cool, Bob. Do I know Bob? I must know Bob. What was your name again? Like, I literally did not remember who this person was, had no recollection of making the introduction. And it changed their life. And it's not like I'm such a hero. I changed lives without noticing. We can all do that.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
simply
You
she
never know
needed,
where it's going to go, right? Or what it's
yeah,
going to
she
do.
needed
Yeah.
some connection. I thought for a second. I said, I know who you need. Let me connect you. Boom, boom, boom. Send a message, and off I
Okay.
go. And
Yeah.
who was that mess man?
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing that. I think we've like gone through so many things today. And just to kind of recap, we started talking about, being in alignment with what you do in your business. And with that, you really truly be authentic and be in integrity. And then when you are networking, know what your goal is. Like, what are you going there for? What is your sort of purpose and your goal? And then who do you need to meet in order to achieve that goal and make that your primary focus and the things you sort of ask for. And as you start talking to people, really building rapport is the best thing to do. And that there's no perfect pitch. So just focus on building the rapport. And a way to do that is ask them about them because people love talking about themselves. And then, of course, help people. See if you can give them advice or connections or something like that. And like we just said, approach every situation, make life better for the person that you are meeting. So,
Yeah.
Michael, where can our listeners find you online?
All right. And one more bonus hint. If you
Yes.
have attention span like Elisa does, do what she just did. Because almost no hosts do that, and no one does it in conversation. But repeating, summarizing what someone said means you were listening. It's not something I
Mm.
do because my ADHD, most things go in one ear, not the other. But if you can do it, it's awesome, and people will remember that as well. So,
Thank you.
where can people find me? You can come
Yeah.
visit me at the Entrepreneur Village every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern time at guywhoknowsaguy.com/village. It's a free event, no obligation. It is all about being a space where people can come together and support each other and share stories of the entrepreneurship world. It's the one place you can go where you're not going to be aggressively pitched in exchange
Nice.
for having some space of gathering. So, and it's free to attend. I just wanted that space to exist, so I did. And it's at guywhoknowsaguy.com/village. And then if you drop the
Yes.
village off, you get the rest of my website, guywhoknowsaguy.com, and that tells you all the other things I've got going on and how to reach me.
Perfect. I'll definitely include that in the show notes. And to finish this off, do you have any final words of wisdom?
The final words of wisdom I'll share is that everyone can be a networker. And in fact, introverts often tend to be better at it because if you don't like doing something, you want to do as little of it as possible. So you get really good. I'm an extrovert. I didn't get good at networking for a long time. So I just like, whoo, let's go to more events. Introverts tend to be better networkers. They pay more attention. They're more organized. They're better at follow up. So if you are an introvert, you are a better networker than me. I just do it more. So you can get more out of it because you have more of the natural brain structure that makes you an effective networker. So if you ever thought I'm an introvert that makes me a bad networker, incorrect. You're an introvert that makes you a great networker. You just need to do it a little bit.
Do it a little bit. Be brave. Go do it. It's all good. And use some of the tips that Michael shared with us today. Thank you so much, Michael. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.